You're welcome to the news on NT International. I'm Lami Ali, and the sign language interpreter is Ada Uno. Let's begin with the headlines. Nigeria's non-oil export sector recorded strongest performance yet in 2025, with export earnings rising to an all-time high of $6.1 billion. Federal government amends charges against Omoyele Sowore in alleged cyberbullying trial. Plus, Europe readies countermeasures over Trump tariff threats. We begin from Davos. Vice President Kashim Shettima has officially commissioned the Nigeria House, Davos, on the Davos Promenade as the ongoing World Economic Forum meeting. The commissioning ceremony marks the first time the Nigerian government has established a dedicated sovereign pavilion as the World Economic Forum. The facility is a product of a public-private partnership aimed at centralizing Nigeria's investment narrative. The Nigeria House will serve as the nerve center for the Nigerian delegation throughout the 56th WEF, hosting high-level ministerial engagements, investment roundtables, and cultural showcases. Nigeria's non-oil export sector recorded its strongest performance yet in 2025, with export earnings rising to an all-time high of about $6.1 billion, representing an 11.5% increase over the previous year. This was disclosed by the Executive Director of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Nonge Ayeni, during a press briefing on the performance of non-oil exports and the 2026 outlook as the export house, Abuja. Ayeni explained that total non-oil export volume rose to 8.02 million metric tons in 2025, up from 7.29 million metric tons in 2024. With Nigeria exporting 281 non-oil products to 120 countries across the world. The Netherlands, Brazil and India emerged as the top export destinations, while cocoa and its derivatives, urea fertilizer, cashew nuts, sesame seed and solid minerals dominated export earnings. She said the achievement reflects the success of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, particularly in diversifying the economy, creating jobs and strengthening Nigeria's position in global trade. Now, the federal government has reaffirmed unwavering commitment towards a comprehensive reform of the nation's marine and blue economy in order to reposition the sector as a vital pillar of economic growth and national development. The Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, stated this in Abuja as the inauguration of the board of the Nigerian Shippers Council. Chukununso Nwabweze completes the report.
The inauguration, which is in fulfillment of the provision of Section 2 of the Nigerian Shippers Council Establishment Act, Adegboyega Oyetola says, underscores federal government's resolve to uphold good governance, institutional effectiveness, and the strategic repositioning of the marine and blue economy as a driver of national transformation.
As members of this board, you bear a solemn public trust. You are charged with providing policy guidance, strategic direction, and vigilant oversight in accordance with the law. The Nigerian Shippers Council occupies a critical position as the designated port economy regulator entrusted with promoting efficiency, fairness, and transparency in port pricing, charges, and service delivery. The effective discharge of this mandate is essential to reducing the cost of doing business at our ports.
The new board of the Nigerian Shippers Council is being led by the former governor of Katsina State, Ibrahim Shehu Shema.
We will ensure that we enhance operations using the excellent laws and regulations under the Ministry of the Economy for the monitoring, movement and transportation of cargo by our waters within Nigeria.
The 11-member board is expected to align with the key priority areas of the ministry through the provision of the oversight required to translate federal government policies within the sector into measurable outcomes. Chukunon Somwabueza, NTN News.
Federal High Court Abuja Division has fixed 22nd of January 2026 for definite hearing of the alleged cyberbullying of President Bola Tinubu. This followed the amendments of the count charge against Omoyole Sowore by the Department of State Services, DSS, at the sitting on Monday. Judiciary correspondent Austin Anyebe reports that the defendant is now facing 2 counts charge.
The federal government on Monday amended the earlier 5 counts charge against the activist and publisher of Sahara Reporters Omoyole Sowore on allegations of false posts against President Bola Tinubu, where in a post via his X-handles, he referred to the president as telling lies about the state of corruption in Nigeria while in Brazil. Under the new charge, the 5 counts have been reduced to 2, cyber stalking and cyber crimes, which are contrary to Section 24, subsection 1B of the Cyber Crimes Prohibition Prevention Amendment Act 2024. Following this, 2 other defendants were removed from the charge. When the 2 counts charge were read to the defendant Sowore, he pleaded not guilty. The prosecution then informed the court of his readiness to continue with the trial as his first witness was in court. But the defense counsel, Abubakar Marshall, opposed the move, saying the statement of the witness he intends to call was not deposed, which is against the procedure and also against Section 36 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as fair hearing is key in any trial. The prosecution insists that the name of the witness cannot be disclosed due to the nature of his job. But the judge ruled that even if the name of the witness is not given, the defendant should be given a brief about the witness to enable him prepare for cross-examination. He therefore adjourned the case to 22nd of January 2026 for definite hearing. From the Federal High Court, Abuja, Austin Anyebe, NT News.
Now to election matters. The Federal Capital Territory Area Council Election Tribunal has been constituted. The 3-man tribunal is headed by Lateef Oladapo Abolaji, a magistrate. Dele Atumbi of our Judiciary Desk reports.
Administering oath of office on the 3-man FCT Area Council Election Tribunal, the Chief Judge of the High Court of the FCT, Justice Hussaini Baba Yusuf, says the inauguration of the tribunal is a solemn constitutional moment bearing directly on the stability of democratic governance at the grassroots and on public confidence in the justice system. Justice Baba Yusuf maintains that the area councils constitute the closest tiers of government to the daily lives of the people and form the basic civic order that sustains communities. He explains that where electoral disputes arise at this level, they must be resolved promptly, fairly, and strictly in accordance with the law, not by speculation, pressure, partisanship, or the sheer volume of public sentiments. Justice Baba Yusuf urges members of the tribunal to be fair and just to all the petitioners.
This mandate is not to confer political advantage, validate public opinion, or serve as a battleground for partisan conflict. Rather, your singular obligation is to administer justice in accordance with the law. It is important to underscore that election petitions are sui generis. They are governed by specialized rules and strict timelines. They demand a disciplined case management and adjudication that is both legally rigorous and appropriately responsive to urgency.
This tribunal serves as a court of first instance for election disputes relating to the FCT area councils pursuant to the applicable constitutional and electoral framework. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
Europe is preparing countermeasures after U.S. President Donald Trump threatens tariffs linked to his demands over Greenland. Germany says the European Union will not give in to what it calls political and economic blackmail. Glory Agbo reports.
Speaking in Berlin alongside his French counterpart, German Vice-Chancellor and Finance Minister Lars Klingbeil said Europe is preparing a united response if President Trump follows through on his tariff threats. Trump warned over the weekend that European countries, including Denmark, which oversees the autonomous territory of Greenland, could face tariff of up to 25% unless Greenland is ceded to the United States. Klingbeil said Europe will not allow itself to be blackmailed and outlined possible countermeasures. These include putting the current tariff agreement with Washington on hold, reinstating EU's tariff on U.S. imports that are currently suspended, and using broader EU instruments designed to respond to what he described as economic cohesion. French Economy and Finance Minister Roland Lescure backed Germany's position, calling the threat unacceptable blackmail between allies, and stressed the need for a coordinated European response to defend sovereignty. Several European countries, including Britain, France, Germany, and the Nordic states, have already issued a joint statement rejecting the U.S. threats. Lescure also announced that a meeting of G7 finance ministers will be held in the coming days to discuss the issue, with France currently chairing the group. European leaders say the limits have been reached and warn that any escalation by Washington will be met with a firm and united response. Glory Agbo, NTA News.
Now, 13 school children have been killed in a road accident at south of Johannesburg after a minibus collided with a truck, police said. The crash happened on Monday near an industrial city about 60 kilometers south of Johannesburg. Police say the minibus, which was transporting the school children, collided with a truck, killing 13 passengers at the scene. Emergency services were dispatched to the area as authorities began investigating the cause of the collision. Details about additional injuries have not yet been released. The crash is the latest in a series of deadly road accidents in South Africa, where officials have long warned that speeding, reckless driving and poorly maintained vehicles continue to undermine road safety despite a modern highway network. Authorities say further updates will follow as investigations continue. At least 39 people have died and more than 120 injured after two trains collided in southern Spain. The crash happened Sunday evening in the Andalusia region, causing a major emergency response as investigators allege the death toll might rise. Here is Gloria Apple with the details.
Images from the scene show victims being taken to an emergency evacuation center in the town of Adamos. Authorities say a high-level speed train traveling from Malaga to Madrid derailed near Adamos and crossed onto the opposite track, but later collided with an oncoming train, causing both trains to derail. Aerial footage released by Spain's Civil Guard reveals an extensive wreckage scattered along the rail line, highlighting the force of the impact. Rescue teams worked through the night under difficult conditions to reach survivors and recover the injured. Civil Guard officers remain at the site, inspecting tracks and damaged carriages as investigators work to determine what caused the derailment. Spain's Transport Minister Oscar Puente said the death toll is not definitive and could rise, thanking emergency crews for their effort throughout the night. Authorities say updates will follow as the investigation continues and families await news of missing loved ones. Spanish minister observed a minute's silence in Madrid in honor of the victims of the high-speed train collision in Adamos. Glory Agbo, NTA News.
Now, more than 10 million Indians participated in this year's annual Hindu festival and its associated rituals. The week-long event was observed amid cold weather, with devotees immersing themselves in a river. Musa Baba Aliu has the details.
Ganga Sagar is a riverine community on Sagar Island in India. The island holds a special place for millions of Indians who gather there every year for the Maktar Sankranti rituals. From the early hours, Large numbers of devotees arrived chanting religious slogans, offering prayers, and taking part in one of the most important bathing days on the Hindu calendar. Despite the biting cold, they took holy dips at the sacred sites. In the Sagam area, as the first rays of the sun lift up the horizon, the pilgrims' enthusiasm grew. Many offered water to the sun god while chanting incantations. This woman is collecting water to take home for her family members who couldn't attend the rituals. Devotees also made sacrifices.
I'm here to take a bath in Gangasa. Since childhood, it was my dream to visit this place and see it up close, but due to many responsibilities and liabilities at home, I could not come earlier. Now I am feeling very good being here.
Security were greatly increased with about 10,000 police officers deployed. Water police are patrolling constantly. The surveillance is being done by drones and CCTV cameras. Even so, Sangita, a 50-year-old devotee, says the arrangements are not good enough.
The services here are not good. I have been standing in the queue for 3 hours to visit the Kapi Mumin Ashram. No one even offered water.
The week-long festival is ending, but pilgrims are still arriving at the sites. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. It's time to take a break. More news when we return. Please stay. Activities at the secretariats of the Federal Capital Territory Administration and the Federal Capital Development Authority, FCDA, have been grounded following the strike embarked upon by the Joint Union Action Committee over demands for improved working conditions. Unoze Yakubu is on hand with the situation reports.
Early as 8 o'clock Monday morning, the main gate of the secretariats of the Federal Capital Territory Administration and the Federal Capital Development Authority were under lock, preventing staff and visitors from gaining access to the complex for their daily routines. Many workers remain at home in strict compliance with the industrial action in order to press home their demands for a better working condition in the FCTA.
We have issues of non-remittance of our pension funds to our pension fund manager, to our administrators. We have issues of non-resolved issues about the National Housing Fund. We have issues of tenure elongation for directors that are supposed to retire and they are kept stunting our growth. We have issues of mass failure in the just concluded CBT exam.
The JUAC chairperson urges members to maintain the status quo until further directives.
Everybody is feeling the pinch of this. You stay in an office environment that overheads are not being paid. There are recurrent expenditures for running the day-to-day of the offices, and they are not being paid. You don't have papers to work, you don't have tuners, you can't keep your closets clean, and so many other issues.
These long queues of vehicles parked on the road shoulders are indications of no retreat, no surrender by the leadership of the JUAC, which are stationed at the gates of the secretariats to enforce compliance. Onoze Yakubu, NTA News.
Traders at the Kugbo furniture market in the Federal Capital Territory are counting their losses after a fire outbreak which destroyed several shops. Hakimat Aliu was at the scene of the incident, and that report will come to you subsequently. Nigeria is setting a roadmap in achieving a sustainable urban development with the commencement of the 14th National Council on Lands, Housing and Urban Development meeting holding in Ilorin, Kwara State. Housing correspondent Francis Udojo reports that the engagement has stakeholders from across the Federation in attendance.
The National Council meeting organized by the Federal Ministry of Housing represents the highest policy advisory platform in Nigeria's housing and urban development sector.
The theme for the 14th meeting
achieving housing delivery and sustainable cities through effective management, urban renewal, promotion of local building materials, and public-private partnerships in Nigeria. Participants say is timely. It reflects the urgent need to respond to pressures of rapid urbanization, population growth, climate concerns, and widening housing deficits across the country.
The success of government policies ultimately lies in effective execution, and this responsibility rests significantly on directors and senior officials at both federal and state levels. As custodians of policy implementation, your technical input, professional judgment, and institutional leadership are essential in translating council decisions into programs and actions that deliver tangible benefits and lasting succor to our citizens.
The present administration in Kwara State is taking unprecedented steps to finding enduring solution to age-long issues of ineffective land resource management, unregulated development of our towns, decayed metropolitan infrastructure, shoddy municipal services through policy realignments.
Over the next few days, the team of directors and other top federal and state officials are expected to engage in technical deliberations and come up with coherent policies and actionable outcomes that will be adopted by the Minister of Housing and his team for the housing and urban development sector. From Ilorin, Francis Udojo, NT News.
The National Digital Farmers Registry, instituted by the federal government to unify farmers' database for planning and targeted support, is receiving commendations. This is as farmers in Bayelsa State say the program will ensure that government support reaches only genuine farmers. Ebenemi Zitimiyola reports.
Most communities in Bayelsa State are blessed with vast, rich, arable land, conducive climate, and abundant water resources. Cassava, yam, cocoyam, rice, plantain and banana, oil palm, sugarcane are their forts. But the farming population are rural farmers.
Water side, my farm been too big. I've been the farm, but now Roson don't cut and finish.
When you plant the cassava them, this yama things them waiting, then they call themselves where they work for the ground. Then they stop and finish. Before it is the time to put it, nothing there. So now, as we they plan to buy all this chemical better, money not there to buy.
Like Ayuba Priye, Captain, Messi, Newman, rural farmers are plagued with a lot of challenges. To help farmers, the federal government launched the National Digital Farmers Registry to collate, create database, and coordinate support. Minister of Agriculture, Abubakar Kyari, says the program comes with the benefit of ensuring resources get to the targeted genuine farmers, enhance productivity, and more.
These are programs that federal government is trying to introduce. For me, I see on the positive side, because farmers need to be organized. We need to have digitalize their data collection, and so that within and outside the country, if there are opportunities, these are the people they will be able to push out.
I also expect proper documentation. Then one other thing we have to even bear in mind, doing registration too, there are some farmers like the elderly ones, they don't have access to smartphones. So this can also be a challenge to them.
Bayelsa State government is on board, affirming its commitment to support.
Database of our farmers, yes. And we are working on it. We always had. It's just improving the data, it's updating it. Yes. We have the rice farmers, we have the cassava farmers, we have the maize farmers. It's just to improve on it, and those data, they are there.
Stakeholders affirm that with sincerity of purpose, Nigeria will not only be self-sustaining, but also will be an exporter of agricultural produce, thereby increasing the nation's gross domestic product. In Yenagwa, Ebinimi Zitamiola, NTA News.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has congratulated the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Mr. Adele Alake, on his re-election as chairman of the Africa Mineral Strategic Group, AMSG, a forum of ministers in charge of mining and solid minerals on the continent. EMSG aims to maximize the benefits for Africans from Africa's vast mineral resources. Mr. Alake was first elected in 2024 on the sidelines of the Future Minerals Forum and later re-elected as the 2026 annual general meeting of the group, which was held on the sidelines of the same conference in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. President Tinubu described Alake's re-election as a clear vote of confidence in his visionary leadership, steadfast commitment and strategic advocacy for Africa's mineral sector. Tuesday's weather forecast is next. Now, this is where we end the news. The sign language interpreter has been Ada Uno, and I am Lami Ali. Do have a good evening.